There it goes. Well, so I decided to make a video anti-natalism, and this one is a little bit of a delicate ricochet, if you will, kind of a tag against anti-natalism, kind of a hit and run in a way. But anti-natalism is a tough shell. It's a tough nut to crack, so to speak. And so what I recommend is, first and foremost, after you're involved with anti-natalism, take a step back, put it in a nutshell, put it over there, and then reapproach it. And on the reapproach, I want you to consider looking at the premises of anti-natalism. One of the main premises of anti-natalism is the imposition argument. Now, you can look at my previous videos if you want to see how it is I've gone over and wrestled with the imposition argument, but what I am attempting to do in this video looks to the anti-natalist like a bit like a shell game. Like I'm moving the pea under the shell to the other shell for no good reason. But what I'm suggesting is look at the premises of imposition and switch out the word imposition with composition. The reason you would do this is to eliminate the connotative negative value of imposition as it itself starts out on a negative slope, and you're replacing it with a word, composition, which is seemingly benign. Now this switch out, I argue, is not a shell game, it's not a word game, it's not a semantic shift for the sake of semantic shifts. It's to develop a parallax. If you develop a parallax, you can close one eye and you can see the line of argumentation that the anti-natalist makes with imposition, that life is an imposition, that we're suffering an imposition, our parents imposed upon us. So notice that the anti-natalist uses a preposition after imposition, such as upon or on, to carry the definition of imposition in a fashion such that you will be able to play the victim or see your life as a victim-filled blame game. You get to blame your parents for your existential experience. So in that line of the parallax, you can see how imposition allows you to create all argumentation that follows down the lines of the anti-natalist. You combine that premises with suffering sucks, and then you can sum up that life has suffering, therefore there's no need for the suffering, therefore there's no need for life, and come to that consequence. Now, when you close the other eye on the parallax and you open the first eye, the object that's in the way now, you have composition. You've replaced imposition with composition, and all of a sudden you have something that is benign, that allows you to look at yourself as a consequent of the universe unfolding as part of your existential understanding of self. And so this parallax allows us to shift views and shift the premises away from imposition and say, my life is a composition, and it's, my life was composed by my parents. But notice how by saying life is a composition, I don't say my parents composed upon me. There's no need for that preposition of on or upon like the imposition has. So notice that the prepositional angle changes in how it is you utilize your vocabulary when you're arguing. Is there really a need to say imposed upon as opposed to say I was imposed? My parents imposed me. Well, if you say your parents composed you, whatever the circumstances is, even if you're a single teenage mother that fell into some sort of I don't know, worst case scenario, a rape situation and still gave birth to the child, that child is still a composition of the universe unfolding, and it's moving through life. Now, the anti-natalist will keep reverting back to the existential crisis that culture, as culture is upon us, and here I'll use the preposition upon us, that the existential crisis comes when one is viewing the culture upon them as being degrading, demeaning, worthless, useless. They don't see a polarity in their being. They don't see an ideology in their being. But if you change it to composition, then all of a sudden you can see that this allows for ideology to still occur, and it kind of it's an exterior run against, it's a coming at imposition from the outside. And before you even get into the nutshell, or before you start the imposition argument at all, before you start any anti-natalist argument, shift that parallax, close the other eye, replace imposition with composition, and see how far the anti-natalist argument can get if all of a sudden the existential crisis that is the environment that they say is imposed upon, that you're a part of the composition, you're a part of the unfolding, you're imbued and indigenous to all of the cultural expansions and all of the compositional arrangements. Now, by composition, I'm talking biologically, physiologically, and culturally. We're composed biologically by our parents' harmonics with one another, their ability to procreate within the cycles and time frames that allowed that procreation to occur. They've executed a process in a composition. Now, don't get me wrong, I say that imposition is a type of composition, in that the whole anti-natalist argument itself is a composition, not unlike Beethoven's symphonies. These are compositions, these are orderings of words to get a certain end goal to be seen by the anti-natalist. And so if you see that imposition is a type of composition and composition is not a type of imposition, then you'll see that the actual dominant or more benign definition of self as composition as opposed to imposition is radically more benign, neutral, and correct, and it allows an ideology to occur on top of it. And by ideology, I mean you're not continually, with the anti-natalists, they'll continually shame positive and benign words into negative words. They'll turn the word rationality into scheming. They'll call your life dog shit. They'll say everything is worthless. So they're moving the pawns towards negativity, towards life negation, when if you replace imposition with composition and you see yourself as composition and within the free form of an ongoing composition called your life, you are able to take control of that composition and guide it in particular fashions that you probably previously didn't imagine yourself able to do. This frees you from the negativity, the ongoing negative onslaught that is anti-natalism that leads to the ethalism discussion. I told myself I wasn't going to make any more videos, but I've been on Tiny Chat for a while chatting with these guys, and I think they wanted an expose from me about composition. See, with composition, you are not able to move the pawns towards life negation. Instead, you can maintain an ideology, see yourself as part of an ongoing unfolding in the universe, and with that you can aim your ship that is your quote-unquote spirit or culturally imbued notion of the I, or whatever your definitive notion of the I, then can rally and move in ways other than life-negating ways. Now, the anti-natalist always stops at suicide as a process. Like, they want life to end, but they don't want to end their lives because that would cause suffering. And so they justify that process. But if you switch it out with composition, you can take your life, if you do decide to make it life negating, you can move your life into a patterning which would allow suicide, or you can allow it a growth. You can remain completely benign. You can kind of move with the waves as the waves come along. But nevertheless, you're in a life-affirming status at this point. You don't have to let the black hole of anti-natalism pull you into that negativity any longer. You're free from it because it's in a walnut shell and it's over there, and you're reapproaching it, and you're going to ricochet off that imposition argument, and on that ricochet you're going to knock out imposition, you're going to put in composition, and you make this move philosophically reasonably because imposition has a negative connotation to it, where composition does not have a negative connotation to it. So you don't want the bows of your ship to be facing down right out of the gate. You want to balance them out. And so you ask for the fairer word. And I had previously tried importation, as I had mentioned that, but composition, there's a supposition that I can replace imposition with composition and still stand firmly philosophically sound to say my life is a matter of composition. It's not a matter of imposition upon. I am not the fault of my parents. My parents caused me, but they are not imposed. They did not impose me on the world. I am a part of this composition that we call world. I am engaged, I am an active participant in interaction with my environment, existentially speaking. So, if I say that I am a part of this universe, like any flower, any animal, or just the air, the rocks, the sunshine, the sunrise, and I see the processes of the world in its cycles and in its harmonies move about me, I can see myself moving along through life without falling into the black hole where everything is life negating. You'll even get some anti-natalists who know, based on their own experience, psychologically, that they don't find anything in negation, that they see that they at least have to keep their ego buoyant and balanced enough to maintain rationality and reason, but that they want life to stop so that others do not have to go through this existential crisis. Well, I'm just saying you don't have to start by entering into the anti-natalist debate with the imposition argument. Enter it with the composition argument and see how far they're able to move the pawns against you, because you'll automatically be able to start moving your own pawns against what they're saying, such that you're able to see your life, your goals, your dreams, your ideology, your possibilities as much greater and grander than a mere reiteration of another person's polemics about the negation of life. So that's what I have to say about anti-natalism and imposition versus composition. And so feedback is always welcome. I'll go ahead and post this and see what y'all have to say. Thanks.